Hey, look at this picture of me and my friends with Stephanie Garber.
Oh, cool. Well, you can see me in a John Green video at one of his tours.
Neat. You know, Victoria Schwab once liked my tweet about a review I did for her book.
Oh, yeah? Well, Adam Silvera responded to a comment I left on his Instagram once.
Rick Yancey gave me a high five.
When was that, Bella?
I went to his signing in Indy a few years ago. He liked my question about a character, Cora.
Well, I ran into Maggie Stiefvater in Chipotle in Virginia, and she signed a book for me.
Oh, really? Can I see it?
It's at my house right now, so no.
Oh, convenient. But I mean, I met Jenny Hahn in Chicago and she bought me a lemonade.
Well, J.K. Rowling flew to America just to meet me.
Rick Riordan adopted me. So we've been looking into how young adult authors participate in the marketing of their books. We wanted to see how they specifically market towards their target audience of teens and young adults, particularly through platforms that teens and young adults are familiar with, like social media. Unfortunately, it's been kind of hard because for whatever reason, they don't want to respond to our messages, but it's fine. Also, Cora keeps getting distracted and wanting to go to Target, and I have to be like, no. But, we're really buckling down because our project's due soon, so it's fun.
Okay, so you found some interviews, right?
Yeah, I have a few. I found one from Victoria Schwab, one's like an article from John Green, and then one's with Holly Black. Do we have the websites picked out?
Yeah, I found a few that are up to date that should work.
Okay, and who do we want to look at on social media? We need people who are like really active.
Well, Angie Thomas and Becky Albertalli are both really active, along with a couple of others. I also found this YouTuber who has done interviews with quite a few authors.
Okay, that's cool. We should watch a couple for ideas and talk about them.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Hey, what are you working on?
Oh, I'm just going over some of those videos we talked about.
Oh, cool. Can you show me what you found so far?
Yeah, here's a video from the tour that John Green went on for the Fault in Our Stars movie.
Man, that's so cool. I'm sad that I didn't get to go to this one, but I did go to the Paper Towns one.
I went to both. I think it's really cool that he showed us all the behind-the-scenes things for adapting his book to the screen. And it was really cool that everyone was there for him in his book since the tour happened before the movie came out.
Yeah, I think that it's a great example of the YA community and how authors play a large part in their fan base. I don't know that the book would have been as popular as it was if John Green wasn't as involved in social media and with his fans as he was.
Yeah, and I think another important factor in the success of that book was that he was one of the first YA authors to sign a massive amount of books for pre-order.
Yeah, that definitely makes a difference. I mean, for one, it gets people interested because it's this cool opportunity, and then for another, it shows the readers that he cares about them and appreciates their support. Did you get one of those?
I wasn't a fan of his yet, but I got a signed copy of his newest book.
Same. So what other videos do you have?
Well, I found this YouTuber called Poland Bananas Books. So this woman named Christine runs this YouTube channel that's mostly book-centric. She has a pretty big following, and over the past couple of years, she's been able to do some interviews on her channel with popular YA authors such as Stephanie Myers and Rita Shepatisse.
I am on tour so much that I can't, write every single day.
They basically just talk about their books in the interviews, but it is an interesting example of a form of marketing that these YA authors are taking part in that isn't really seen with other age groups. This is a good example of how they're finding ways to connect with their target audience.
Do you think that these authors choose to do their interviews, or do you think that their agents or publishers encourage them to do them in order to get their book out there?
I don't know. Maybe we can find the answer. I still haven't gotten any responses.
Me neither.
I wish that we'd been able to find someone who wasn't so busy. Our questions were so good.
Mine were.
Do you think we should try and send them again?
I don't know. I don't think we have time for that, and I don't think that they check their messages very often.
let's try and find answers from our other sources.
So we messaged 10 authors, but we weren't able to get a response from any of them. Some are more well known than others, so we'd hoped that like a couple wouldn't be as busy, so they could answer us, but I guess not. But basically we just asked about their involvement in the marketing side of their books. Like we wanted to know what publishers expect of authors versus what authors choose to do on their own. Like involvement in social media and stuff like that. We really just wanted to try and understand the experience more from an author perspective than a fan perspective.
So how many people do you think their advertising reaches through social media, and which one is the best for marketing purposes?
Okay, well, looking through Jenny Han's accounts on Instagram versus like Twitter, I would say that she reaches a ton of people. She has 131,000 followers on Twitter. She has 267,000 followers on Instagram, which is like a lot more. So, Instagram might be better for like marketing purposes, but I think that Twitter provides them with more opportunities to interact with their fans in a casual way. Mm-hmm. Oh, and according to this article I found through the Academic Search Premiere, it's called Reaching Ali Condie Fans Online and In Person from Publishers Weekly. So when the last book of her Match trilogy came out, Ali Condie had a Twitter chat, and like the hashtag was super popular. It was viewed over 1.3 million times. And then another article that I found talks about how YA authors in the early 2000s used MySpace to interact with each other and their fans, though obviously, that's a little dated. But it's cool that they formed this little social group before YA really blew up. Mm-hmm. Do you think that they choose to have the social media presence, or do the publishers encourage them to do it?
Well, looking at that same Ali Condie article, it says that to build anticipation for the concluding installment of the dystopian trilogy, Penguin's marketing team exploited social media tools and found a strong online fan base to offer a playful take on some of the book's most memorable elements. So, obviously, Penguin came up with the marketing technique, but that doesn't mean that Ali Condie wasn't excited to interact with her fans. And looking through Adam Silvera's Twitter, he responds to a lot of fans who mention him, and he retweets things all the time. It's small things like that that get readers excited for the books because they want to support people who engage with them. I think those are great examples of how authors and teams use social media to engage with their readers. So, do you think authors who have stronger social media presences tend to have better book sales?
Going back to that Ali Condie article, it went on to talk with the agent, and the agent said that it worked and that there was this countdown widget on the book's publication date, available via a link on the trilogy's website, and it received more than 400,000 impressions after the Twitter chat. So I think, that's a lot that she probably wouldn't have gotten if she hadn't been on Twitter drumming up interest for her book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you can also see, based on social media and stats sales, that authors who have bigger sales attract a bigger following. So if your book is already successful, having a big following might not be that important, since those sales might have been made anyway. For example, Cassandra Clare's books have sold over 15 million copies, but she has nearly 1 million Twitter followers.
Yeah, well, what about smaller authors? Do their sales correlate with their number of followers?
I'm not really sure because I couldn't find sales figures for any lesser known authors, but it stands to reason that since they are lesser known and they do tend to have fewer followers, their sales figures probably reflect that.
It sounds reasonable. I think we answered most of our questions. I just wish we could have gotten the opinion of the individual authors.
Yeah, I agree, but maybe we can find more personal opinions on their websites.
Okay, so I've got up Stephanie Garber's website and A.S. King's website. Who have you found?
I've got Jennifer Niblum's website up, and I also found some information about the tours that you were asking for. One thing we thought was more unique to YA authors was the scale and frequency of the tours they go on, as well as the other events they attend. We also wanted to look at their websites to see what information we could find. A couple of authors we've been researching even have blogs that we were able to look at. They've been really helpful for finding the author voice rather than just looking at numbers.
This is A.S. King's website, the official hideout.
This is the homepage. It's just got the About section.
Her future book.
You can get to events.
Which is one thing that we want to look at.
There was a launch party for her newest book. And other stuff related to
Yeah, there's an author festival that's kind of like a convention.
Looks like she's doing a tour to some different bookstores.
Yeah. Conference.
Book fair.
Book festival. Multiple.
Annual conference and another annual conference
And a workshop. Oh, that's interesting. We didn't think about that.
Yeah. She's got a lot of book trailers.
Yeah, I think book trailers are maybe like another way that authors market towards. I mean, that may not be necessarily an author thing, but I mean, it's definitely.
But it is an interesting form of marketing because it's not something you necessarily see a lot of.
Yeah, and I think it reaches their audience better too.
And she has some for quite a few of her books.
Yeah. I think the more popular you are as an author, the easier it is to make book trailers. Because, like, for some of the smaller authors that I've read, I haven't seen book trailers for, but, like, you know, bigger ones. Like, Cassandra Clare has a lot of book trailers. Kara Cass had them for, like, The One in the Air.
She says her tour date, these dates again that were on her website.
I think these little blogs are helpful. I think they're helpful in reaching the audience as well, because like I'm signed up for a couple of authors' newsletters. I think that's another way.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about newsletters. So her homepage just has links to everything else. It has upcoming events.
She's got Y'all Fest.
Yeah, and book tour for her newest book, and she's got a big poster for that as well. And then we liked that she has her past events like archived.
Yeah, that was nice.
Because you can see kind of a lot of the stuff that she's done, like Comic-Con, some conferences, book tours, another book festival conference, BookCon.
She's involved in a lot of stuff.
So this goes all the way back like a few years.
Oh, I didn't go to the UK events, but I did go to the Carnival. This one.
Which one did you go to?
I went to Naperville, Illinois.
Nice.
Anderson's Bookshop.
Back to news. So yeah, it's just articles that talk about her books.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. I don't think I've seen that on any other websites that we've looked at.
Yeah, I don't think any other ones that we've looked at, but I think it's helpful for authors to do that.
Here is a link to all her social media.
That's nice, keeping it all in one place.
First page shows all her books and where to buy them. There's her social media. And there's a newsletter.
Fancy.
Events, which is another thing. I think that all the ones we looked at had a blog too, which is interesting because not every author has a blog.
I think more and more now, though, because blogs are kind of like what fans are going to. I think authors are doing that, so that way they can get their information out better.
Yeah. I remember Holly Black had a pretty up-to-date blog on her website too, and I think a couple other people.
Yeah.
I like that she has a calendar for her events.
I mean, yes and no. I think it's helpful when they're all laid out. That way you don't have to, like, scroll through if they're, like, months in advance. But maybe, like, if they had it laid out and then a calendar on top of that.
Yeah. Doesn't look like she has any events anyway, so.
No, I don't think she's had any books published recently.
We'll go to her blog.
Oh.
Interesting.
Who is?
Oh, it's Justice Smith.
Oh, right, because he's playing Finch.
Finch, yeah. Okay, so this looks basically just her social media feed.
Yeah, most blogs that I see are them talking about their books, questions about their books. Sometimes people will share fan art, which I think is really sweet. Okay, so I just emailed you the link to the interviews that I found, so you can look them over. There are some specific questions that the authors answered that I think will be really beneficial to our research.
Very cool. Let me pull them up.
So the websites and blogs were helpful, but these interviews in particular focused on the things that we were interested in pursuing. They all discussed the importance of social media when trying to sell their books. I even found an article by John Green about his year-long absence from social media, like why he did that and the benefits from it, so, you know, that's cool. And, you know, the interviews in general are just really cool because it's the author actually answering these questions instead of us guessing at their thoughts. I mean, I still wish they would have answered our questions, though. Too bad you didn't have social media when you were alive. So, in the interview from Fictionist magazine, Victoria/V.E. Schwab talks girl bands, minorities in YA, Vicious, and Our Dark Duet. The interviewer actually asks her about some of the questions that we were hoping to find answers to.
Oh, like what?
Well, this question isn't exactly the same as ours, but it's kind of similar. So, with over 43,000 followers on Twitter and a whole bunch elsewhere too, how do you stay so connected with your followers/readers? I thought this question was really cool, especially because I've interacted with Victoria Schwab on social media a few different times, and she is one of those authors who like communicates with their fans a ton.
So, what was her answer?
She said that she spends a lot of time online, so much so that her publishers would probably like her to spend less time online. She says that she keeps her Twitter on the @replies so that she can see everything that like mentions her, but she won't necessarily respond unless it's a direct question, and then she like can't or won't answer some questions, obviously. She mentioned some stuff about Tumblr and a couple of other places where she opens her DMs, but she doesn't check those as often because of hate mail. From my experience as a fan of hers, I would say that Twitter is the site that she's most active on.
Yeah, and I think Twitter is just easier for authors to interact with their readers. It's more like a conversation or a discussion forum. So what else do they talk about in the interview?
Well, the next question is asking about BookCon. We wanted to learn a little more about like YA conventions and why authors go to them, but I don't think we were really able to find a whole lot. So basically, Victoria Schwab talks about how she likes conventions depending on the size, like San Diego Comic-Con is too much for her, but she really loves the book conventions. She says that writing is a very solitary pursuit, and so I look forward to times I get to connect with readers.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's pretty much all she says. She talks about getting to see her author friends too, but that doesn't really apply to our research. Oh, and later there's a question about her favorite place to go on tour. It's her local bookstore in Nashville, Tennessee. They have shop dogs.
Oh my god. Let's go.
I agree.
Okay, future road trip aside, let's see what else we have.
Was there anything that stood out to you in the John Green article?
Yeah, actually, there was one quote that I thought stood out. John says, "I have millions of followers on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. Without the internet and my public presence there, my novel, The Fault in Our Stars, would never become as successful as it did."
Well, I mean, that quote kind of proves our thesis. And I think it's really cool how he attributes his success to his readers as well, because I feel like a lot of celebrities don't do that.
Yeah, so what about the interview with Lloyd Black?
Okay, well, this interview was discussing her book, The Coldest Girl in Cold Town, which social media plays a big part in. So the interviewer asked her like a ton of questions about social media, and one question was about how Holly Black personally uses it and how she thinks it's changing the publishing landscape.
And what does she say?
She says that all of the basic social media websites are really great, specifically for connecting directly to readers. She also says that it's good for communicating with other writers, both established and up-and-coming. She also talks about book bloggers, which is something that we didn't really think about. Holly says, the rise of book bloggers has created a community where it's easier for new books to be discovered and for word of mouth to make a huge difference in sales, both domestically and internationally. I mean, this just shows another aspect of YA that helps market their books. Also, I know a lot of popular book bloggers are able to do interviews with YA authors, like the Poland Bananas Books YouTuber. So they're obviously a good resource for the author as well.
Yeah, I think these articles were super helpful.
Yeah, I'm really proud of all the research that we found.
So yeah, that's... Bella, has that doll been here this whole time?